Welcome to the dark hills of Appalachia, where we trace the full history of America's most haunted region. Arguably, there's some debate there, but it's one of the most haunted regions. From the ancient Cherokee nations who first called these ridges home, to the Scots-Irish settlers who brought their own ghosts with them, to the coal wars, the Trail of Tears, the grinding history that shaped one of the most distinct cultures and regions on Earth. And then, when history gets dark enough, we go a little further. We're going to talk about things like the Bell Witch, the Wampus Cat, the ghost who testified at her own murder trial, and the granny women and hexers working in old craft in hollows that haven't changed in 200 years. These aren't campfire stories. These are integral legends to a magical region in the United States. They're the record of a people who lived close enough to the edge of things that the edge started looking back. Voted in today by our Hellions on Patreon, we are going into the dark hills of Appalachia. I'm Monty Mater.
I'm Andy Jones.
And this is Highway to Hell. Boom, we did it.
All right, mission accomplished.
And we're back. You're back from the cruise.
Yes, barely awake, but I'm here.
It was a long day for you yesterday.
Oh, my 6,000-hour trip from Miami. God,
I had my crash and burn this week, but it was just because of cumulative effort and getting ready to move. I'm so scared of that move. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, if you need to hand them around too. So.
But I'm so tired of those stairs too.
So they can't fix the elevator.
They can fix the elevators, but it's going to take 3 months.
3 months?
Yeah, because the elevators are 65 years old. All the parts they have to make, they have to manufacture.
Oh my God. Oh.
So when I move, I'm moving down 9 flights of stairs, which thank God I'm not moving any furniture. But all my books, all my records, everything's got to come down those stairs.
Well, you could put the rest of the band to work, and I'll just delegate.
Exactly. Just be like,
put it over there.
Just have Andy with a bullhorn at the top, just yelling at folks.
Dude, I'd get smacked so fast by them. Oh my God.
I mean, I am so thankful. This is one of those many, many moments. I'm thankful that I'm renting out my condo furnished.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to move anything. The only heavy thing I have to move is my Peloton. But like if I take the screen off and have two guys, that's manageable.
Not too bad.
It's not too bad.
That's good.
I'm excited to have a studio though. That's going to make life so much easier schedule-wise, content-wise.
Amazing.
But it's a big, just like anything, moving is always super stressful. But now it's like, oh shit, I'm buying a house, I'm building a studio. What am I going to paint this place?
Yeah.
Black.
Of course.
I'm at least having, I think the main room, that big main room, I think I'm doing black with like big gold accents and decorations. And I have a mural that I found that I'm putting in one of the ceilings.
Sounds subtle.
It's going to be super subtle. Very subtle. I am nothing but subtle.
Yeah,
absolutely
same.
nothing but subtle.
Me too.
So all that to say that if you are also feeling worn down, anxious, angry, I feel like everybody's going through it.
Oh, yeah.
The star girlies tell me it's because there's 7 planets in Aries, which tracks. That seems very intense based on what I know about Aries. It's supposed to end next week, so hopefully at least the tension will ease up a little bit.
I'm not sure exactly what all that means, but it sounds heavy.
It sounds correct. Yeah. It sounds correct to me. So we're going to jump in today. I'm really excited for this episode. We've got a lot of history, a lot of lore. We've got some firsthand encounters.
Yep, awesome.
But we're going to start with comments first.
Oh, like always. And I just want to say thanks to everybody on Patreon for voting. I mean, you guys really showed out with that. It was overwhelmingly Appalachia.
This was the overwhelming winner over
like,
on Patreon.
I looked at that. I'm like, well, I guess I know what we're doing. It's 73% say this episode
Appalachia.
Today. Yeah, exactly. So we got some comments here. Actually, there's a ton of comments. So I'm going to try and just jump around a little bit here. First comment. Do an episode on the Lindgren cult in Kirtland, Ohio. And while you do the travel, don't forget to visit Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. That's magic with a K at the end.
Ooh, I like that.
And the Oddity Shop in Lakewood, Ohio. Yeah, so Lindgren cult. I'm not
familiar with that
Kirtland,
at all.
Ohio. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. Thank you for that. That's a really great recommendation. We got one here. Oof. I love you guys. Thank you so much. We love you. Team 0.8 speed here.
0.8 speed. Oh, because, okay, listen.
Yeah.
We had several comments where people are listening at 2 to 3 times the rate. Like I have a episode of the Oakland County Child Killers loaded up at 3 times speed because I want to show, I don't believe you. I want to show you how fast
3
this
times.
is. This is crazy.
Let's hear this.
Like, both Jesse and the other guys named Cameron. Oh, Cannondale, listen, Cannondale. Both sounds like a weak ass pussy bitch. I would love to meet him. Here's my face.
There's no way, man.
No way.
Come on, really?
I mean, I did catch weak ass pussy bitch in there. I didn't cue that up on purpose, by the way. That was just the section that it was on.
Just good timing. And she was talking about some of the mispronunciation on the La Llorona episode. sorry, we're not Hispanic. I don't know what you want from us.
Well, I do try to
My
put in.
dad's from Germany.
I'm totally happy to take pronunciation corrections, but
Yeah.
I do try to put in. I try to look it up and give myself like a sounded out thing so I can see how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
But sometimes I still fuck it up. My brain's
Of
like,
course,
"Rah."
it's not our native language, but thank you for the comment. Road Out of Hell is a brilliant book. It covers the story with input from Sanford's son. That's from the Gordon Northcott.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that book. Thank you so much for that. I've been wanting to actually check that out. I'm glad someone mentioned that you should do Appalachia. I second that. We are doing that today. Also, you should do an episode on Gettysburg. Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that would be good.
Absolutely. Thank
That's
you
a good
for that.
one. That's a good request.
I'm so excited you talked about Saskatoon. I live a few hours away and we'll definitely check it out. Awesome. Let's see. Oh, here's an interesting one. This is on the Northcott episode also. I'm not going to lie. I clicked on this because I thought that this was a lady serial killer who fed her male victims to her chickens. I can confirm that chickens are tiny raptors. I'm glad that my cat was in my lap when I watched this. Anyway, y'all heard of Lizzie Borden. You should definitely look into that. Yeah, we absolutely will.
Yeah.
You didn't do that in season 1, did you?
I didn't do Lizzie Borden in
Okay,
season
for
1,
some
though.
reason I thought you did. Oh yeah, here's one, and it's got a few thumbs down. Less ad-libs from the man will be appreciated. Less ad-libs from the man. How I'm amazed you think I'm truly a man. But less ad-libs from the man. I have a name, Andy. I say at the beginning of every episode. Thank you for your comment and enjoy the future episodes. I will be at your place at 6 to pick up your mom. Have a good day. But seriously, dude.
It's
Thank
totally
you for the
fine.
comment.
The feedback. We appreciate it.
We're all just messing around here. I don't take anything
This
too
does remind me, though, some
seriously.
dude was getting snarky with me the other day. And like before my crash and burn this week, I've been getting like closer and closer to the edge and one step closer to the edge and I'm about to break. And this guy was getting so snarky with me. And I turned around and I said, listen, motherfucker. I was like, I will marry your dad and give him a son he can be proud of.
Oh my God. Ouch.
I felt like a little bad later. I was like, oh, that was actually pretty brutal. And I wasn't even drinking whiskey.
Where was that at?
I was drinking gin. It was at one of the restaurants in Germantown.
Oh my God.
This dude just kept being a fucking dick and he wouldn't let it go. And I'm the kind of person that I feel like I can let things slide pretty well, right? Because just most of the time it's not worth it. But if you keep pushing at a certain point, I'm gonna hurt your feelings. I hope he didn't sleep well that night.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't. Yeah, my God. I don't get what people. I mean, we ran into a couple people like that trying to move gear on the cruise ship, and some guy like said something. I'm like, sorry, we're a bunch of assholes. And of course, they don't say anything back.
Right.
That's why I like wearing shirts like this. With the from Fit for an Autopsy. On the back it says "Lust for the Severed Head."
Yeah, it's like I'm just trying to be subtle about it.
Yeah.
Just trying to be calm, cool, collected.
I just don't get people. They just be so rude. But anyway,
It doesn't need to be that way.
no, I agree.
Not this comment, but just the people in general.
Yeah, that comment.
The people in the public.
I thought it was
Sometimes
funny.
some of our gigs, like when we've had people come in and like just be batshit,
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, dude, like I know you're in Nashville, but like you still can't do that.
yeah. It's the stories we could tell. Let us know if you want us to do some stuff on Patreon like that, just talking about old like gig stories, old war stories.
Yep.
But
war
anyway,
stories.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for the comments. Sorry if I missed any good ones here. I'll go through it again
And
maybe on
thank
the
you
next
so much
episode.
as well for the new. We've been getting some new ratings, which are really, really helpful
Yeah,
for us.
yeah.
So if you haven't
Thank
rated
you.
the show yet, please do. Please share the show. All of that stuff just helps us show up in discovery lists and makes it so other people can find us.
It's always appreciated. Thank you, guys.
All right, all right. What was that? I just made up a word. That's fine.
Just
I've cut. This is what happens when I cut my caffeine in half. It's destruction. Okay, so we're going to jump in. We're going to start with the history of the Appalachian region. I think that this is so important because I think a lot of the magic of this region is much, much older than what we know of now, than the legends that linger now. So we're going to start long, long before European boots ever came over. The Appalachian Range was among the most densely inhabited regions of North America. It's also a very unique region. It's one of the densest hardwood forests in the temperate zone. And because of climate change, those hardwoods are actually dying out. But up until this point, it's been a very important region for hardwoods. And the mountains of the Appalachian region are among the oldest on Earth. They're worn smooth by hundreds of millions of years. They created dozens of distinct nations whose history stretch back at least 16,000 years towards the end of the Ice Age. So from around 14,000 BCE to 8,000 BCE, the earliest confirmed inhabitants of the Appalachian region were Paleo-Indian cultures who followed the retreating glaciers northward where the ice sheets were receding. They were nomadic big game hunters, tracking mastodons, giant ground sloths, and ancient bison through the valleys that were still raw from the glacial carving. Archaeological sites like Meadowcroft and Rock Shelter in southwestern Pennsylvania are now believed to be one of the oldest human habitation sites in the Americas. They give us our earliest windows into these ancient people dating back as far as 16,000 years. And then the Archaic and Woodland periods, which is 8,000 BCE to 1,000 BCE. As the megafauna disappeared and the climate warmed, Appalachian peoples transitioned from nomadic hunting to semi-permanent village life. The Archaic period saw the construction of shell middens along the river valleys, evidence of rich fishing and gathering cultures. By the Woodland period, sophisticated mound-building societies, part of the broader Adena and Hopewell traditions, constructed ceremonial earthworks throughout the Ohio Valley and the mountain's western slopes. And these were not simple burial mounds, but these were complex spiritual landscapes. You can actually visit a version of these mounds near St. Louis.
Oh,
is right outside of Missouri. It's a very similar time frame, similar tribal life, but they would build these mounds as part of their agriculture and architecture, and it was centered on the chief mound, and they would plan it based on, similar to Stonehenge, plan it based where the sun would hit and how the sun would set, and these seasonal festivals and traditions that they had. And
that's so
it's
amazing.
so incredible.
It's so amazing that those people had just the wherewithal to do all. It just blows my mind.
And it makes you wonder, like, where did they learn this?
Yeah, that's kind of,
and who decided, hey, the sun is significant in this way, or this part of the season is significant, and they knew. They just knew.
It's pretty amazing.
By the time the Europeans arrived, the most powerful and culturally sophisticated nation of southern Appalachia was the Cherokee. The Salagi, their own language, meaning the principled people, their territory encompassed over 1,000 square miles of present-day Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, West Virginia, and Kentucky. The Cherokee were not a single unified tribe, but a confederacy of towns, each semi-autonomous, connected by a shared language, culture, and vast trading network. The Cherokee built permanent towns of bark and clay along the riverbanks, cultivated what was called the Three Sisters, corn, beans, and squash, and organized society along matrilineal clan lines. A woman's clan determined her children's identity, inheritance, and social standing. I agree. Their spiritual world was enormously complex. The universe was divided into three realms: the upper world of order, the lower world of chaos, and this world of balance, or should be balance. And every living thing possessed its own animating spirit. This cosmology would give rise to some of the most enduring supernatural folklore of North American history. And that is so true that really the patriarchal societies that we live in now are so new, relatively new, because in previous, especially hunter-gatherer and kind of the sister cultures that branched from that, it was always matrilineal.
Right.
It was always through your mother's line was how everything was determined. And then when land and ownership became a big part of the equation and people wanted to start to hoard wealth, it really became about, well, I need the son to be mine, or I need the child to be mine. Yeah. And the only way you can, for women, if she gave birth to the kid, the kid's hers. No questions. Like, that is her child. But for men, because until we had modern testing, they don't have that. So that's when that conversation about controlling women's virginity, controlling women's bodies became part of the conversation, was because it was the way to control wealth and to prove paternity.
Jeez,
and that's where that dramatic shift happened. But prior to that, it was really mostly matrilineal, which is just a naturally easier way to determine all of that. But also there was a lot of reverence for the life-giving and the birth-giving that women did. The Shawnee occupied the central Appalachians and the Ohio Valley, ranging widely across present-day West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio. They were fierce and mobile. The Shawnee were traders, warriors, and diplomats who maintained alliances with nations as far east as Delaware and as far west as the Kickapoo. Their relationship with the land is what would become of West Virginia was very complex. They regarded it less as a permanent homeland and more as a sacred hunting ground, and they considered West Virginia specifically to be a borderland between worlds. The Appalachian Range was also home to the Lenape in Delaware in the north, who inhabited the ridges and valleys of Pennsylvania and New Jersey, the Catawba of the Carolinas, The Haudenosaunee, or Iroquois Confederacy, whose influence extended deep into the northern Appalachians, and the Tuscarora of North Carolina, the Seneca of New York's southern tier, and dozens of smaller nations whose names have largely been erased by history. And I will clarify that as colonial history. Together they form the mosaic of languages, traditions, and spiritual practices that define the mountains for millennia. And there's a quote that said, "These hills have always been alive with something older than any name we have given them." The Appalachian Mountains were to these people not merely geography, but they were living entities, inhabited by spirits, watched over by animals with supernatural powers. They were part of the balance of this world and crisscrossed by pathways that connected the physical and the spiritual worlds. Many of the legends that would later terrify European settlers were shadows of this ancient, intimate relationship between people and the land. And I so wish that more of this history had been taught in school.
I agree.
Because I feel, even now, I feel like I'm learning so much about indigenous history and ancient history that was never told to me ever.
I'm really ignorant on a lot of those things, but it's always fascinating to hear, and I love learning about it. And I wish it was taught more, and it should be taught more. Let's change that.
It really
it's very,
should.
very important.
And it very much, it gives so much more background to the things we see and experience today. Like there's so much depth in the spirituality of these ancient cultures.
Absolutely.
But because I went to the mounds outside of St. Louis in season 1, I had no idea something like that existed.
Mm-hmm.
No idea.
Me either.
Didn't have a clue.
Yep.
And so let's go to part 2. This is where Europeans enter the chat. So Spanish conquistadors were the first Europeans to push into the Appalachian interior. Hernando de Soto, Brutal's expedition of 1539 to 1543, cut through what is now Georgia, Tennessee, and the Carolinas, encountering powerful chiefdoms and leaving a trail of violence and epidemic disease. The Cherokee and the Catawba would lose up to half their populations to old world diseases within decades of first contact, a catastrophe without parallel in recorded history. That's the other thing is we forget, and it's not often used in language, that we talk about the indigenous. These were empires.
Yeah, they really were.
That were obliterated, especially by disease and then later genocide. Just unbelievable. But to lose half your population from just raging diseases that your body couldn't fight.
Yeah, you never experienced, or not experienced, that's not the word, but you never had to encounter, these conditions that these people brought over.
Yeah, you didn't have antibodies for it.
No,
and
exactly.
Just couldn't fight it off. The English colonists of Virginia began pressing into the foothills in the mid-1600s, initially for the fur trade. Explorers like John Lederer crossed the Blue Ridge as early as 1670, returning with reports of a great sea, almost certainly the Shenandoah Valley, lying behind the first mountain wall. The character of Appalachian settlement and the culture that would define the region for the next 3 centuries was shaped most profoundly by the migration of Scots-Irish settlers beginning in the 1720s and accelerating through the 1770s. If you have watched Outlander or have read the books, that is why they go to the Appalachian region. They are basing it off of Scot-Irish settlements. These were the descendants of Scottish Presbyterians who had been transplanted to Northern Ireland by the British Crown in the 17th century, only to find themselves squeezed out by rack-renting landlords and economic hardship a generation later, so they came here. They were a tough, fiercely independent, deeply suspicious of government people, can't blame them, and they came to the American frontier in waves. Pushing south and west along the Great Wagon Road of Pennsylvania, they funneled into the valleys of the Shenandoah and Blue Ridge, then over the first and second mountain walls into the wild country of what would become West Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Joining them were significant numbers of English settlers from the Tidewater region and German immigrants, particularly from the Pennsylvania Dutch, who brought with them their own folklore and superstitions. So now here's where we get into like the hybrid of the indigenous beliefs and especially the Scots-Irish beliefs. The arrival of European settlers brought, of course, inevitable catastrophic conflict with the native nations of the mountains. The Anglo-Cherokee War of 1758 to 1761 devastated Cherokee towns throughout the Southern Highlands. Decades of frontier violence followed, raid and counter raids, kidnapping, treating violations, massacres, leaving both settler and native communities traumatized and deeply suspicious of the other, but particularly devastating to native tribes and native communities. And it was in this cauldron of violence that the Appalachian folklore was forged. It was a fusion of native spiritual beliefs, Scot-Irish second sight traditions, and English witchcraft lore, German folk magic, and just the raw terror of being in a wild landscape with so much conflict, so much death, so much disease. The settlers brought with them a profound belief in the supernatural, The Scots-Irish tradition of second sight, the ability to perceive spirits and prophesy death, was taken very seriously as scripture was taken. German settlers brought with them the practice of brocchery, again, hoping I'm pronouncing that right, or healing magic. The English brought centuries of witchcraft belief, and when these traditions, of course, met with the Cherokee cosmos of spirits that was already there, shapeshifters in the dark hollows, the result was one of the richest and now most terrifying folk supernatural traditions in the world. And so the opening of the Trans-Appalachian West was accelerated by figures like Daniel Boone, whose blazing of the Wilderness Road through the Cumberland Gap in 1775 opened Kentucky to settlement. By 1800, hundreds of thousands of settlers had pushed through the mountain passes into the bluegrass country beyond. The mountains themselves, however, of course, remained isolated, a world unto themselves that were shaped by geography into a culture that, of course, would remain so distinct, so spooky, and is the reason that we're doing this episode.
Could you imagine being somebody like Daniel Boone and just going out there in like this vast wilderness, unexplored, and just going out there and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go conquer this thing.
Yeah,
and
I'm gonna
go
cut my way through.
Out.
Like, and you have no idea what's out there.
Yeah.
Or who's out there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
You're cut from a different cloth, man.
You are.
If you're doing that.
You are.
I
And
can't
wilderness is one thing as well, but I feel this way about people that did exploration on the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Dude, Magellan.
Like, it doesn't end and you're just going to sail into it?
Yeah.
That is,
Even back in the day, people were like...
I do not have balls of steel like that.
No, people were like, oh, that's the edge of the earth. You're going to sail off. And they're like, well, I'll figure it out. Like, they went and tried for... I mean, that's unbelievable.
They tried to find the edge of the earth.
Yeah. Now, granted, not all of them are the best people out there, but, it's like... It's amazing to have that idea.
It's still a level of courage. Even if you're a piece of shit and you were only doing it for wealth, there's still a level of cojones you have to have.
You're a pretty brave piece of shit.
You're a pretty brave piece of shit. Same here. All right, let's talk about Appalachia. Appalachia in the American story, in the United States history.
Yes, let's see here. Excuse me. The American Revolution found Appalachia divided between those who saw no reason to trade one distant government for another, those with fierce grudges against British allied Cherokee raiders, and genuine patriots who understood that independence might finally let them settle the back country on their own terms. The decisive Appalachian moment of the Revolution came on October 7th, 1780, at the Battle of Kings Mountain, a wooded ridge straddling the North and South Carolina border. A force of over-mountain men, frontier militia from Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee, who had crossed the Appalachians specifically to fight, surrounded and annihilated a force of 1,100 British Allied loyalists in 65 minutes. Jeez. It was, in the words of Thomas Jefferson, the turn of the tide of success. The men who fought it went home afterwards and asked nothing of anyone. That too was Appalachian. That's pretty tough, man.
That's pretty...
To just go and take out all those guys in 65 minutes and be like, no, it's all right. I'm going to go back here.
Yeah,
call me if you need me.
I'm going to go stretch real quick.
I'm going to go grab a nap and a sandwich and call me if you need me. Few regions of America experienced a civil war with more complexity than Appalachia. The plantation economy of the lowland South, built on enslaved labor, requiring large flat acreage, generating enormous wealth, had never taken hold in the mountains. Most Appalachian families owned no enslaved people. Many resented the planter class that dominated Southern politics and had now dragged them into a war for a way of life they did not share. Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
Unionism was fierce in the Appalachian Highlands. Eastern Tennessee voted against secession. West Virginia broke from Virginia entirely in 1863 to join the Union, the only state formed by secession from another state during the war. Yet the war was savage and personal in the mountains in ways the larger armies barely touched. Neighbor killed neighbor. Families were split. Irregular bands of bushwhackers, sometimes Confederate, sometimes Unionist, sometimes simply criminal, terrorized communities throughout the Highlands. The wounds did not heal quickly. The Hatfield-McCoy feud, which erupted in the border country of Kentucky and West Virginia in the 1870s and lasted into the 1890s, was partly a delayed eruption of Civil War hatreds. The McCoys had been largely Unionist, the Hatfields Confederate. And I totally forgot it was around that time.
Yep.
Totally forgot.
And it really was in part like a result of the conflict and because of that separation and West Virginia pulling away and saying, no, we're going to join the Union.
Yep.
And in large part, specifically, and it's so weird to think of that now, especially with where West Virginia typically is now.
Right.
But for the poor mountain people, like they had no respect or any allegiance to the rich plantation owners of the South.
Why would you?
Yeah, that didn't mean, there was a big animosity there and kind of the same kind of looking down on, the impoverished that they still felt. So they were like, nah, man, we're not fighting for you. Fuck you.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with you, man. Never heard of her.
Never heard of her.
So the industrial transformation of Appalachia after the Civil War was as rapid as it was devastating. Railroads reached into the mountain counties in the 1870s and 1880s, and with them came the coal companies, largely owned by outside capital from Philadelphia, New York, and London, who bought or seized, that's a good word, mineral rights from farmers who often did not understand what they were signing away. That's just the lowest of the low, man.
So shady.
Wow, I'm shocked that they've always been like that.
Who knew?
My God. The broad form deed, a legal instrument that separated surface rights from mineral rights, was used across Kentucky, Virginia, and West Virginia to strip communities of control over their own land. The coal companies then built entire company towns, where the company owned the houses, the store, and the church, and paid miners in scrip, redeemable only at the company store.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keep all their money.
Everybody knows the song,
Yep.
The old mountain song had it right. St. Peter, don't you call me, because I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store.
Yep.
Tennessee Ernie Ford recorded that too back in the day. I think he did the original.
Yep. And it's so true. That's what's scary about recently, Elon Musk and some other, way too wealthy people have been advocating to bring back company towns. And that's exactly what this was. The company controlled your life. And
you can't get out.
If you got hurt and you fell behind on wages, because they're providing your housing, they're paying you, you can only shop at their stores, you can only go to their churches, then you became an indebted servant to them.
Yep.
And that was the whole purpose of it, to barely pay you enough so that if and when you fall behind, because everybody gets sick, everybody gets hurt, whatever.
Yeah, stuff happens.
Then you owed them.
Yep.
I'm so opposed to that.
Then you're trapped. Yeah, and it's
so bad. It's just worker exploitation.
And to hear them proposing that, I mean, all these people are the same through history.
Yep.
The worst of the worst.
Yep, just trying to hoard as much as they can at the expense of anyone.
Yeah, a leopard doesn't change its spots.
Yep. And the leopard will eat your face.
Yeah. Just like that scene in Apocalypto. I'm sure if you ever did you ever see
know.
that? Yeah. Well, if you guys haven't seen that, check it out. It's really good. Anyway, I digress. Back to this. The labor wars that followed were among the bloodiest in American history. The Paint Creek and Cabin Creek strike of 1912 through 1913 in West Virginia brought the legendary organizer Mother Jones, then in her 70s, into the mountains, where she rallied miners at midnight meetings in the forest, in the forest when company guards prevented public assembly. The Battle of Blair Mountain in 1921 was the largest army insurrection in American history since the Civil War. 10,000 armed miners marched against Logan County, West Virginia, in support of their Union rights, and were broken only when the federal government sent in aircraft to drop bombs and tear gas on American citizens. That's great.
Yeah.
Lovely.
If they ever say the government won't do it, the chances are they already have.
Yeah.
Chances are they already did it.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Yep.
Coal gave Appalachia a century of brutal, necessary, character-defining labor and took from it clean air, clean water, healthy lungs, and tens of thousands of lives in mining accidents and black lung disease. Jeez. When the coal economy began its long decline in the 1970s, communities that had been systematically stripped of any other economic base had nothing to fall back on. Yep. Jesus.
Just poverty.
Yeah, black lung's not good stuff, and not the one that Derek Zoolander had. Yeah. Got the
but it is. It's
pop.
It always,
stuff.
and then you already experience poverty, whenever you have a major shift economically, when you go from agriculture to industry and industry to something else. But then they were just robbed, raked over the coals, worked to death, and then abandoned. And the only people, but they're mooches for wanting a safety net, but the guy who ripped them off and is now a multi-billionaire is not. I'm
so tired of those people, man. Yeah. So tired of them.
Me too.
And I think everybody else is too, for the most part.
I think we're all a little tired.
I have a small inkling, a small feeling that maybe you guys are getting tired of them too. The Great Depression devastated Appalachia's already fragile economy. In the New Deal's response, the Tennessee Valley Authority, rural electrification, the Civilian Conservation Corps brought electricity and infrastructure to communities that had lived in the 19th century well into the 20th. The Appalachia Regional Commission, created in 1965, channeled federal investments into roads, education, and health care. But the fundamental problem, an economy built on extractive industries controlled by outside capital with the wealth flowing out and the damage staying in, was never solved. The opioid crisis of the late 1990s through the 2020s landed on Appalachia with particular ferocity. Pharmaceutical companies, knowing they faced minimal regulatory scrutiny in rural areas and that physicians in economically devastated communities were more easily pressured, flooded the region with opioid pills. In McDowell County, West Virginia, at one point, a county of 22,000 people received 7.5 million opioid pills in a single year.
Fuck.
My God.
Fuck, dude. Jesus.
Just trying to wipe them out.
Just
Jeez.
make that money and kill them off.
Yep. The death toll, the family devastation, the generational trauma, the scale of what happened to Appalachia at the hands of these companies represents one of the great corporate crimes in American history. And yet Appalachia endures, as it always has. The music, rooted in old British ballads, African-American blues, Cherokee rhythms, gave the world bluegrass, old-time country, and rock and roll. Mm-hmm. The storytelling tradition, the quilting bees, the shape note singing, the front porch culture of conversation, all of it persists fierce and alive alongside a new generation of writers, artists, and organizers who are remaking the story of the mountains in real time. The oldest mountains in the world have outlasted every catastrophe thrown at them. So have the people who have called it home.
Man, that's true. So true. There's so much good music that comes out of there.
God,
And there's something about, like, when you look at the early 20th century in music history as well, like poverty, grief, loss creates incredible art.
It does.
And so much of that has come out of the Appalachian region. And before we jump into some like really specific stories, I'm going to kind of give a general overview of some of the things that you've heard about Appalachia. All right. So before we get into the named legends that are a little bit more specific, I want to talk a little bit about the more pervasive Appalachian folk belief. These are things you've heard about in paranormal episodes, or maybe if you grew up there. It's a kind of a largely unwritten system of knowledge about what the mountains contain after dark. And these are not stories told around fires for entertainment. These are actually survival instructions that people take very, very seriously. The oldest admonition is do not go into the woods after dark. This is the oldest and most universal prohibition in Appalachian folk belief, shared across Cherokee, Scots-Irish, German, and English settler traditions. This is, of course, not just practical advice about bears or broken ankles. It reflects a genuine cosmological belief that daylight and darkness are not simply lighting conditions, but two different states of the world, that the world shifts and gets closer to the veil after dark. What is safe to do and where it is safe to go shifts at sundown in ways that do not shift back until sunrise. The Cherokee believe that the worst of the spirit world's predators, the raven mocker, the spear finger, and the stone man, were specifically nocturnal, their power rising after dark in ways that made daytime encounters with them survivable and night encounters fatal. European settlers layered their own beliefs on top of this, that the devil walked at night, witches convened after midnight, hence the witching hour, and the dead were most mobile in the hours between midnight and 3 a.m, a period, again, witching hour, in nearly every tradition that touches the Appalachians. Old-timers throughout the region had a phrase that had been recorded from North Carolina to Pennsylvania that said, "The thing that waits in the woods are patient. They have been waiting since before your grandfather's grandfather was born. They can wait another night. Do not give them tonight." The second admonition is never whistle after dark.
Yep.
Of all of the specific prohibitions in this folk belief, this one is the most widespread, the most soberly maintained, probably the most well-known even by people not from the region. Throughout the mountains, in communities as far apart as western North Carolina and eastern Kentucky, the same instruction persists across generations. Do not whistle at night, and do not go to a whistle if you hear it at night.
Yep.
The reasons given vary, but the variation itself tells you something about how old and organic the belief is. And again, in the Cherokee traditions, whistling after dark is understood to mimic the call of the little people, the Yunwi Tsunzi, the small supernatural beings who live in the rocky outcroppings and stream banks, who are by turns helpful and catastrophically dangerous depending on their mood and the nature of the person who encounters them. To whistle is to attract their attention. Their attention is not something you want. In Scots-Irish tradition, whistling at night is said to call the wind, not merely the weather, but the conscious entity that arrives with something else riding it.
Oh, God.
In German settler communities, nighttime whistling was said to summon the devil directly, who would come when called if the call was musical enough. The mountain families did not whistle indoors after sundown, even in the 20th century. Some still do not. So this is not just outside. This is also don't whistle in the house.
You know what? Just don't do it at all. How
Right,
about
exactly.
That?
Can you
Don't do it.
imagine some kid being an asshole to his parents, just starts whistling inside, and parents freaking out?
Oh, be like, what are you doing?
Perhaps most alarming is the most consistent regional belief that something in the woods will whistle back. Not immediately, sometimes minutes later, sometimes from a different direction that gives no sense. Close enough to hear clearly, never the same tune. Old people who have spent their lives in the mountains do not whistle after dark. They do not explain themselves when asked why not. They just look at you a certain way. And that certain way is don't be a dumbass.
Yeah, just don't do it.
Just don't do it.
We do it for a reason.
Yeah, don't do it.
You know, we follow this rule for a reason. I remember when I first heard that, I remember getting back from a gig late at night, and I'm like the only person out in my apartment complex, not in the mountains or anything, fairly well lit. And I'm just like, man, what if I'm not going to do it? But like, what if I whistled right now?
What if I whistled? And what if you heard something back?
I would have run. I would have run for my life up to my apartment, drop just everything. I'll move on. I'll get new things. But yeah, I remember that crossing my mind. I'm like, man, I'm not going to do it. It creeped me out, you know?
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's too
oh,
much,
God,
especially in the dark when you're by yourself.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Also, if you hear your name called in the woods at night, your full name spoken clearly in a voice you almost recognize, but it's not quite right, do not answer. Do not go toward it. Do not call back. This is not merely a matter of caution about strangers. It is the specific mechanism by which several categories of malevolent Appalachian entities are believed to operate. The Raven Mocker, a fearsome entity in Cherokee belief, is a witch spirit in the shape of an old man or woman who steals the years from the dying, was said to call the names of its intended victims before coming for them. To answer was to confirm your location and, in some tellings, to surrender some essential part of yourself, your name. In many traditions, being not merely a label, but a piece of your soul.
Wow.
European settlers brought their own version of this belief that the devil and his servants would call your name from the dark at a crossroads or a hollow, and to respond was to begin a transaction that you could not finish on favorable terms. Mountain parents warn their children about this specifically. If you hear your name in the trees and no one steps into the light to show you themselves, put your back to the nearest wall or tree, and then later walk home without speaking back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny seeing and actually hearing all this stuff. I feel like a lot of these stories are really, really popular on like TikTok and Instagram now. You see a lot of these videos with these rules, and that's kind of where I was first initially seeing these. And I'm like, I wonder if these are really accurate, you know, because it's the internet.
Yep.
Not everything's accurate. I know it's hard to believe. but I remember seeing some of those videos and then actually finding out that, these are real sayings and stuff. That just creeped me out.
And
dude.
it was I first heard of all of this when because I went to school in Virginia.
I always
And so
forget that.
I met people that, like, their grandparents, they either grew up or their grandparents still lived in these regions.
Sure.
And they would talk about this. So like, oh yeah, my grandma will not let us out after dark.
It's crazy.
Like, can't do it. Like, you can't do this. And I remember being so shocked by that, but it's a very widespread belief. And then later I would see it on paranormal podcasts or videos, and people would talk about this. Got a couple more rules for these and a little more haunting. The word booger, now domesticated into a child's term for the thing that comes out of your nose or a trivial thing, was used throughout Appalachians for some considerably more serious. It was a malevolent spirit or entity of undefined form that lived in the darkest and remote parts of the forest. Every community had specific places where boogers were known to concentrate, not in your nose. Certain stream crossings, strands of trees, certain stretches of the mountains, certain hollows. These were not simply scary places. They were understood to be genuinely inhabited by something that would cause harm if it was encountered. And there's a whole bunch of different versions of this. The Cherokee distinguished among dozens of categories of dangerous spirits and entities. Beyond the Raven Mocker, the mountains were believed to harbor the Ukt'en, enormous serpent beings of tremendous power that lived in the deepest pools of the mountain rivers. The Stone Man, which was an invulnerable giant covered in stone skin that could only be defeated by the most powerful medicine people. The European settlers had their own inventory, raw head and bloody bones, which were a shapeless thing that lived in dark water and under the beds of children who had misbehaved.
Ooh.
That sounds strategic. The Haint, a specific kind of malevolent ghost that could assume familiar forms and lure victims. This is kind of like a doppelganger.
Yep.
The jack-o'-lantern, not a carved pumpkin, but a wandering light seen in swamps and hollows that led travelers off of safe paths into places where they could be drowned.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one.
These entities were understood to concentrate in certain conditions, which was places where a violent death had occurred, a crossroads. This is regarded as spaces between worlds in both Celtic and African folk traditions, bodies of water that are still after dark, the edges of cleared land where the forest begins. Mountain people did not build their houses too close to these boundary zones, and they did not linger at crossroads after sunset. And the rules of the house. There's several traditional protections of the Appalachian home. This is the way that you keep yourself safe in these nighttime areas. The first one is the horseshoe over the door. Yep. Iron was universally understood across European traditions to repel supernatural entities. So a horseshoe would be hung above the door with the ends pointing up to catch luck and keep it from running out, was one of the most common household protective charms. Never sweep dirt out the door after dark. In a tradition with roots in both the Scots-Irish and African-American folk belief, the latter brought by enslaved people and later freed people who shaped part of this culture, sweeping dirt outward after dark was believed to sweep out the luck and protection of the household, leaving it open and vulnerable. Salt at the threshold and windows. Of course, salt has long been understood as a purifying and protective agent, so this would keep the spirits and the malevolent dead outside of your home. A Bible under your pillow or under the bed, not open to a specific passage, simply present, was understood to ward off power, especially in European belief. Never let a stranger in after dark without invitation from a household member. So this is not in hospitality. In Appalachian belief, a being that could assume human form, like a witch in animal form or human guise, a haint or a shapeshifter, could not enter a home without being invited. So to open the door to a stranger after dark who had not been expected was to potentially invite something that looked like a person but was not.
Black-eyed
This
Kids.
is kind of Black-eyed Kids, also tied to
Vampire.
vampire lore.
Reminds me of Sinners.
Yep. Oh, I love that movie. I just
so
rewatched
good.
it the other day. So good.
So good.
Witch bottles buried at the property corners. They were sealed ceramic glass bottles containing pins, nails, hair, urine, sometimes blood, buried at the corners of the property. These were a Germanic tradition that took root in Appalachian culture. The theory was that the witch who sent the curse toward the property would find it drawn into the bottle and trapped.
Interesting.
The belief that haints cannot cross water. Malevolent spirits cannot cross running water is nearly universal in this type of folklore. And so bridges were therefore regarded with some ambivalence. They permitted you to cross water, yes, but they also permitted things to follow you that could not have otherwise done so.
Ooh.
And then do not pick up coins or any object found at a crossroads. Again, these are traditional sites of transactions with supernatural entities, this place with the meeting of worlds. We have so many legends about deals with the devil, leaving offerings for the dead, a place where powerful conjuring can be performed. Any object left at a crossroads was understood to carry a purpose or be part of a transaction. If you did not put it there, don't touch it, step around it, leave it alone.
Don't touch it.
Leave it alone. That's like sometimes I see people like, I found this in the woods. It's always a white person. I found this in the woods. Like, put it back. Please put it back. You don't know what that is.
Meanwhile, it's like a mummified hand. What are you doing with that thing, man? Put it down.
It's so bad. It's like, don't do that.
My God.
Oh, man. And so now that we've gotten through really some of the kind of the traditional general folklore, we're going to get into some specific stories all across Appalachia.
So with all that stuff, before we get into our next topic, where do you stand with a lot of that superstition and rules and things like that?
I mean, my science brain,
You being a rule breaker.
right? My science brain says, because I like a lot of witchy woo woo stuff,
Sure, me
like
too.
crystals and tarot, and like I love the history behind them. I think a lot of the benefit of all of that is that a lot of it comes from practical advice, like you're more likely to get hurt if you're in the woods at night type of thing. But there's also, and it's the same thing with people who do like any kind of ceremony, any kind of practice, there's a comfort that comes with it.
Sure.
There's a mental ease. It's a nervous system regulator.
Yeah.
So I agree with it in that aspect of there's something that can calm someone or something that feels safer, feels more protected.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, no bullshit. If I meet like an 85-year-old grandma
Right.
who's telling me something, I'm just going to listen. I'm going to default to listening because I don't know. I've met some of these and we're going to talk about some of these like magic Appalachian grannies.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to listen. And like, if I meet an older Black woman who tells me, I'm going to believe her. I am just by default going to believe her because,
That's me.
like we've talked about with other hauntings, only one story has to be true, and it opens up the door for all of the rest of this.
Absolutely. And, you hear some of these things about these entities or creatures and stuff. It's like, oh, that can't be true. Well, then why are there stories about it?
Yeah. Why are there so many?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They can't all just be to scare kids.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they could. I don't know.
And I think a lot of them, there's this combination of, again, just generally good advice. Don't let someone you don't know in. But also there's this, there is this part of it where, whether it was from Native American tradition or European, they're trying to explain a world around them they don't understand.
Yeah.
And often we use the divine to explain what science hasn't yet.
Right.
So there is a lot of
it's
that.
like the sun being a god.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. But there's also just the common sense of it of like, you're much more likely to go missing after dark. And these were really violent times.
Absolutely.
These people were dealing with a lot of disease, a lot of death, like a lot of bumps in the night and sounds you can't explain.
Yep.
But also, I've had supernatural encounters
Yeah.
that I couldn't explain in a modern home. And let me tell you, it made me a lot more superstitious. So again, to your point, they can't all be just made up. That seems as illogical to me as saying they're all true.
Exactly. And I think of, one thing that comes to mind, it's not necessarily Appalachian, but have you ever heard the Sierra Sounds, the recording of that?
Yeah.
That is some of the weirdest stuff, which if you guys aren't familiar, the Sierra Sounds are supposed Bigfoot talking. And it's just some of the weirdest sounds you'll ever hear. Like it gives me goosebumps. It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I mean,
and
it's
you're
so
like,
bizarre.
this isn't good.
And so just thinking about that and thinking about the Appalachian region, there's so much unexplored area.
Yep.
I mean, to this day,
Yep.
There's areas that people just don't go into. So who knows what's in there?
Yep.
It's,
and it's like
a little
plant
creepy.
medicine. Like so many people dismiss plant medicine and, what we would call traditional healers. But now, again, with science, we're circling back to realizing, it's this chemical in this plant that helps treat this condition. And these ancient healers and these, and a lot of it was passed down matrilineally. It was passed down from women. Women were traditionally the healers. Like they knew something because now we're circling back and proving that a lot of what they did was right, which is why so many natural remedies can be so beneficial for like mild conditions and things like that. And so now we're discovering, we don't know how they knew that, but we're discovering they were right.
Absolutely. And of course, Big Pharma can't have any of that because then you won't buy any of their
Can't have
stuff
that.
and keep funding them. But anyway.
Anyways, so we're going to hit some of the biggest, like the most famous stories of the Appalachian region, which is so huge. We're going to start here in Tennessee, which is actually where, when we get to the travel portion, is also going to start in Tennessee.
Excellent. So here we have the Bell Witch. Now, I know you guys have heard us talk about this quite a bit. I've been there. My girlfriend's been there.
I've been there.
You've been there. I'm trying to get more people to go there. It's up in Adams, Tennessee, and it has a weird feeling when you walk into the cave. But I'll get into the story because I don't know. We've talked about it, but I haven't really delved too much into the actual story. So here we go. In the autumn of 1817, John Bell, a prosperous, God-fearing farmer in Robertson County, Tennessee, began hearing strange knocking and chain-dragging sounds in the walls of his log home. If I heard chain-dragging sounds...
Oh, I'd lose it. On wood?
Yeah.
Like, that's a distinct sound.
Leave me alone, Jacob Marley. Leave me alone. Anyway, he assumed they were rats. He checked the walls. There were no rats. The sound grew louder, moved from room to room, and were joined by a new disturbance, the sound of something gnawing at the bedposts in the night, of lips smacking, of stones thrown against the house from an unknown hand. Then the pulling began. Bedcloths yanked from sleeping children, hair pulled so violently that John's daughter Betsy screamed and woke the house. Then, horribly, the thing found its voice. What the Bell family encountered over the next 4 years has never been adequately explained. The entity, which came to be called Kate, after a neighbor named Kate Batts, whom John Bell had once quarreled with over a land deal, demonstrated an impossible range of abilities. It could quote scripture with the fluency of a theologian. It could sing hymns in a voice of remarkable beauty. It knew details about the private lives of neighbors who lived miles away. And it had a focused hatred of John Bell himself. John's wife Lucy, it treated with something approaching affection, bringing her fresh fruit in winter, covering her with blankets, singing softly to her when she was ill. Going back here for 2 seconds, bringing her fresh fruit in the winter. Where are you going to find fresh fruit in winter?
Exactly.
Dun, dun, dun. Creepy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Anyway, John, though, it tormented. It struck him in the face repeatedly, causing welts and bruises that appeared without any visible assailant. It twisted his jaw so severely he could not eat. His shoes were pulled from his feet. His sleep was destroyed. He aged years and months, grew thin and hollow-eyed, and stopped attending church because the voice mocked him in front of the congregation. Word spread, neighbors came, then strangers. General Andrew Jackson himself reportedly visited the Bell farm, having heard the story while campaigning in the region. According to later accounts, Jackson's wagon wheels froze on the road approaching the property, the horses straining uselessly against an invisible resistance before a voice announced that the witch was ready to receive him. That night, one of Jackson's men, a self-declared witch slayer, who boasted he could banish any spirit, was reportedly struck, slapped, and driven screaming from the house. Jackson allegedly slept poorly and left the next morning, declaring he would rather face the entire British army than spend another night with the Bell Witch. Sheesh. Sheesh. On the morning of December 20th, 1820, John Bell was found unresponsive in his bed, a strange vial of dark liquid on the nearby table. The family physician could not identify the substance. John Bell died that day. The voice in the house sang, it was said, with wild and obscene joy. John Bell's son gave the liquid to the family cat. Why'd you do that, man?
Mean.
The cat died convulsing within minutes. Maybe on the Bell. I'm on the Bell Witch's side. That's
I'm Team
move.
Kate right now.
Yeah. The vial was thrown into the fire. The entity lingered for 3 months after John Bell's death, then told Lucy Bell that it would return in 7 years. Accounts from 1828, 7 years later, described disturbances at the home of John Bell Jr. that lasted for 2 weeks before the presence departed, announcing it would return in 100 years. After 1928, no further manifestations were reported, but in Robertson County, now called Adams, Tennessee, they do not discuss the Bell Witch in terms of whether it happened. They discuss it in terms of what it was. And also, the Bell Witch is the only entity, spirit, to have ever killed a human being.
Yep.
Creepy.
And this is one of those stories that there's multiple people witnessing this. Like
Yeah.
this isn't just one account. This is neighbors, pastors that they knew. There was 2 men that they called to try to get rid of the witch. One was kind of a magician, one was a spiritual leader.
Yep.
So there was multiple people who had encounters with this thing.
Absolutely.
And recorded it and reported it. And if you want to hear the full story of that, this is actually season 1, episode 1, back when I was a solo traveler in my living room. That's the first episode, but it's an incredible story. But she's the only entity that's ever committed homicide.
Yeah. And I wonder where the hatred from John Bell came from.
It makes me wonder if he abused Lucy.
I'm kind of wondering about that myself.
Right.
You know, it's a very interesting story. And of course, if you guys are ever in Adams, Tennessee, I highly recommend going to it.
It's really cool.
You walk into the cave, and of course, I'm sure you talk about this in the first episode, but I'll say there's, a Native American burial ground in the cave as well. So it's, just a lot of energy in that place, and you could just feel something.
Yeah, and
off.
they warn you not to take any stones or arrowheads that you
Don't
find,
take
because
anything.
everyone that does, they immediately get hurt. They'll get into car accidents.
Mm-hmm.
They'll break a leg, break an arm. Something will go on at the house, and then the
Don't mess
people
with it.
that work there have talked about, we'll get shipments of people sending a rock or something back because they didn't believe us.
Yep.
But as soon as they brought it home, they started having problems. And so don't take anything. Just leave it alone.
My girlfriend took different pictures when we were doing our visit a few years ago, and there's orbs in every one of them.
Yep. Oh, I remember
Yeah,
that.
I think we showed you. It's very, very strange.
All right, supernatural creature number 2, the Wampus Cat. This is in the bestiary of the Appalachian legend. The Wampus Cat is both the oldest and most deeply rooted in the spiritual worldview of the Cherokee people. It's not merely a monster, but a being of immense spiritual power and a cautionary figure in some traditions, a righteous avenger in others, and in all of them something that hunts on the edge of the firelight, where the human world and the spirit world press against each other. The foundational Cherokee legend tells of a young woman who was forbidden from attending the sacred hunting ceremonies held deep in the forest, ceremonies that were reserved for men, where the hunters would smoke, dance, and receive the spiritual guidance and hunting magic they needed for the season. Overcome with curiosity, or in some versions, jealousy over a rival for her husband, she disguised herself by wearing a freshly stripped skin of a mountain lion and crept to the edge of the ceremony to watch. She was discovered, and as punishment for violating the sacred rite, was transformed. The medicine man bound the mountain lion's skin to her permanently, fusing the woman and the cat into one body. She was cast out into the forest, half human, half cougar, doomed to wander the mountains forever, a being of two worlds belonging fully to neither. In other tellings, the Wampus Cat is not a cursed woman, but a protective spirit, a great mountain lion who guards the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead, preventing the dead from crossing back in numbers large enough to overwhelm the living. Its cry, a sound like a woman screaming in terror, is both a warning and a lament, a keening of something that has seen too much of what lies on the other side. European settlers adopted the transformed legend readily, folding it into their own tradition of witch cats and shapeshifters. In settler lore, the Wampus Cat became a creature that could run on either 2 legs or 4, that moved through the trees faster than any natural animal, and whose yellow eyes had the power to paralyze with fear upon anyone they fixed. It was said to stalk travelers on mountain roads at night, to appear seconds before a violent death, and most terrifyingly, to be heard most clearly the moments before a terrible storm, its woman's scream rising above the wind. The sound remains one of the most consistent elements across all of the traditions. Those who claim to have heard it, and there are a lot of documented accounts, I'm going to read one here in a second, describe not an animal sound, but a human one, a long, rising, utterly desolate wail that carries along impossible distances. And this is a firsthand account by Luther Presnell, who is 84, recorded in 1933. It was November of 1892. I was 38 years old, and I thought I knew these mountains. I had been hunting in the high ridges above my father's land since I was 7, and there was not a holler or laurel hill up there that I hadn't been through at least once. I went up alone with first light with my dogs, Reba, King, and a young dog I called Possum. Wasn't worth much, but she was cheerful. Good company on a cold morning. We'd been on the ridge for maybe 3 hours when all 3 dogs stopped. Not the way they stop when they've caught a scent, not still and focused with their noses working. They stop the way animals stop when they're scared. Every hair on all 3 of them stood up. Reba pressed herself against my legs. King turned around and faced back down the mountain the way we'd come, which was the direction away from what they'd smelled or heard. Possum, and Possum had no sense, whimpered once the way a dog does when it's hurt, and then all 3 of them simply ran down the mountain, not stopping, not looking back. I called after them until I couldn't hear my own voice anymore. And then I heard it. It started as something that might have been wind in the hemlocks, the high resonant moan of air through dense branches, but then it became something else. It was a woman's voice, but totally wrong. The pitch of real grief, of something genuinely lost, or of pain was amplified until it seemed to come from everywhere around me at once. I have heard panthers scream. I have heard foxes in the night. I have heard women in childbirth and every variation of sound these hills produce. I have never heard that sound, and I pray to God I will never hear it again. I stood very still for what was a long time. The scream moved from my left to somewhere above and behind me. I did not turn around. I have thought about this many times since, and I cannot tell you why exactly I did not turn around, except that some part of me understood that I couldn't. I walked very carefully, fighting every instinct to run, back down the mountain. I did not run until I could see my father's smokehouse below me, and then I ran like a child. Reba and King came back the next morning. They were never the same dogs again. King flinched at loud noises until the day he died. Reba would not go into the woods under any circumstances. Possum never came back. I found his tracks the next morning in the mud at the spring. Alongside them, tracks I cannot account for. 5-toed like a large cat, but with a 6th impression behind each one that may have been a heel, a human heel.
Wow.
Dude.
Bizarre.
And trust the animals.
Oh, every time. Every time.
I trust the animals. And I have one other short account that comes from 2015.
Okay, so fairly, a little bit more recent.
Yeah. I want to be clear that I am not a superstitious person. I'm a licensed wildlife biologist with 18 years of field experience in southern Appalachia.
Wow.
I have heard every animal the mountain can offer. I know what a screech owl sounds like. I know what a red fox sounds like. I know what a mountain lion sounds like. In October of 2014, I was running a camera trap line on a ridge in the Natahala National Forest, working alone, returning to my truck in the dark along a logging road around 9 in the evening. I was perhaps a quarter of a mile from the truck when I heard it. I want to be precise. It was a scream. It was a human scream, specifically a woman screaming in absolute terror, but it was sustained without breath for what I timed on my stopwatch at 11 seconds. A human cannot sustain a scream at that volume for 11 seconds straight. No animal sound I have professionally cataloged matches this recording. Yes, I have a recording. I'm not sharing it publicly, not because I think people wouldn't believe me, but because something happened when I played it back in my hotel room that night. My phone battery was at 72%. By the end of the 45-second clip, it was at 0.
Whoa.
I have tested this phone exhaustively since. There's no technical explanation for the drain. I have since spoken with 2 members of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians who told me where on the ridge I was standing, when I didn't tell them where I was. I have not gone back.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So scary. No, thank you. And I was really, before preparing this episode, I was really unfamiliar with the Wampus cat.
I had heard of it before.
Yeah.
Just from like Discovery Channel, like, compilations of creatures and stuff and learning about this stuff and reading, finding out. But yeah, I didn't know a ton about it. I just heard the name kind of in passing.
Yeah.
And maybe heard a little bit of the story.
Terrifying.
It really is. And then we got this next one here, which, were you familiar with the Flatwoods Monster?
I was not before preparing this.
Actually.
Okay, I thought you might be, but I was not familiar with this one.
I'm familiar with it because I'm a nerd. Anyway.
Nerds.
So, Flatwoods Monster, also known as the Braxton County Beast. What happened on the evening of September 12, 1952, in the small community of Flatwoods, Braxton County, West Virginia, is one of the most thoroughly documented and consistently reported paranormal encounters in American history, and one of the most thoroughly unresolved. Unlike many such accounts, the Flatwoods incident involved multiple witnesses of different ages, produced physical evidence investigated by the United States Air Force,
Wow.
and generated symptoms and witnesses consistent with chemical exposure rather than simple fear. I always thought that was a strange thing about it as well.
Weird.
At approximately 7:15 p.m., several boys playing outside in Flatwoods saw a bright object streak across the sky and appear to land on a nearby hill on the farm of Bailey Fisher. The boys, Eddie and Fred May, and their friend Tommy Heyer, ran to tell their mother, Kathleen May. She accompanied them back, along with a local National Guardsman named Eugene Lemon and several other neighborhood children. They brought flashlights. Lemon brought a dog. As they climbed the hill, they noticed a foul, acrid smell, metallic and sulfurous, and a strange mist or fog that burned their eyes and throats. Lemon's dog ran ahead and came tearing back, tail between its legs, whimpering. At the top of the hill, Eugene Lemon's flashlight caught 2 small lights in the darkness that he initially took for an animal's eyes. Then the flashlight beam rose. The figure stood between 10 and 12 feet tall.
Wow.
Its face was red and roughly heart-shaped. The eyes were large and circular, green and glowing. The lower body was described as pleated or segmented, dark in color, like the skirt of a dress, but made of some rigid material. The arms, if they were arms, were clawed and held in front of the body. It made no sound the witnesses could agree on. One said it hissed, another said it produced a high-frequency mechanical drone. Kathleen May later said the creature glided towards them, not walking but moving as through frictionless without bending its knees. The group broke and ran down the hill in terror. Several witnesses spent the next several days in acute distress, vomiting, swelling of the hands and face, throat and eye irritation consistent with exposure to a caustic agent. One boy was hospitalized. Local investigation of the hill found a large circular impression in the grass and the strong chemical smell, which dissipated over the following days. The Air Force investigated and concluded inconclusively that the witnesses had seen a meteor followed by a barn owl perched in a tree.
Right.
You guys believe that? Let me know. The conclusion satisfied no one who had actually been on that hill that evening.
I believe that about as much as I believe JFK committed suicide.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
If you believe that, I've got a bridge here in town I could sell you.
I can sell you some oceanfront property in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Sound like my dad. In Flatwoods, West Virginia, it still doesn't. I mean, that's a pretty weird story.
That's super weird.
I remember hearing about that when I was a kid. And we actually have something from the Private Journal of Thomas Adkins. Here, it's a little story to go along with it. I did not go up the hill until the following night, the night of the 13th, because I did not hear of what had happened until the next morning. I'm not a superstitious man. I'm a veteran of the Pacific, and I have seen enough of real horror that the supernatural seems redundant. I bet he had.
Yeah.
My God. I went to look, as any curious person would, and I took my flashlight and took my notebook, and I expected to find a scorched patch where a meteorite had landed and stirred up some teenagers. The smell hit me before I reached the top, before I could see anything. Not sulfur exactly, though. There was sulfur in it. More like the smell of a welding torch, of hot metal or something biological beneath it, something almost medical. My eyes began to water immediately. I noted this in my journal. I reached the top of the hill and found the impression that they had described, roughly circular, perhaps 12 feet across, where the grass was pressed flat in a radial pattern, as though something round and heavy had rested there and had risen straight up. I was examining this with my flashlight when the humming began. I write the word humming because I have no better one, but it was not musical. It was the frequency of a large electrical transformer, felt as much as heard in the teeth and in the sternum. The smell intensified sharply. I looked up. To the east of the hill, perhaps a quarter-mile distant, there was a light, orange, red, and steady, unlike any aircraft running light I had ever seen, neither blinking nor pulsing. It was perhaps 100 feet of altitude, and it was rising, slowly, silently, with no sound or any engine I could identify. And as it rose, the humming increased in frequency, and my vision at the edges grew strange. A gray shimmer like static at the periphery of what I could see. I watched it rise until it was indistinguishable from a star. The humming stopped at the same moment it reached altitude. The smell began to fade. My watch said 11:48 p.m. when I went up the hill. When I reached my car, my watch said 3:16 a.m. I had no memory of 3.5 hours.
Whoa.
My notebook contained entries I do not remember writing. Most of them are measurements, distances, angles, times, written in my hand, but in a state of precision and repetition I find alien to my normal note-taking style. At the bottom of the last page, written twice in large letters, do not look directly at its face. I had never published this account. I publish it now because I have cancer, and what people think of me no longer seems relevant. I have no explanation of any of it. I've never found one that satisfies me. Thomas Adkins from Braxton County, West Virginia, 2003.
Yep. And that was, I believe he wrote that in because he went up 1952. So this was from his private journal,
right.
And it was donated to a museum, which is so, dude, lost time is terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, I don't remember what I had for lunch today. It's another thing to be like, I don't remember where I was for the last 5 hours.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I don't know, like, if anyone's ever been drugged, I was drugged once at a bar, and it was the time loss that was the most terrifying. Thankfully, I was with friends who got me out.
Was that the gig we did? Okay,
no, that happened as well, but it wasn't, I didn't drink enough of it because we were at a show once and these guys tried to drug me on stage and got me a drink. And typically, like, there's no problem. People buy you drinks and it's fine. But something was off about these guys.
Right.
And I took a sip of it and they had this look on their face and I was like, ooh, I don't trust that. I put it down. But it was enough that within a few minutes, I was like blinking and like I felt like I was going to pass out. I was getting spots in my vision. So
Scary.
Thankfully it wasn't enough to like put me out. But the one time when I was in New York still and someone gave me a drink. It was only my second drink. And that's what was so shocking about it. I'm fine 1 second and then I remember nothing.
That's scary, dude.
For like hours.
That's really scary.
So scary. And then later my friends would, like the next day, my friends were calling me and saying, are you okay? What happened?
Yeah.
My roommate was teasing me because he thought I got drunk. And I said, dude, I was just starting my second drink. And he's like, oh shit, you got drugged.
Yep.
So like, the time loss is the most terrifying.
Yo, absolutely. And God, it's such a weird sensation. And I think we'll include, actually, just for people to see the Flatwoods Monster, I found this great picture just to show you, though, real quick. And what you guys will see this when we do the episode, but that's what he supposedly looked like. Oh,
yikes. No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thanks. That's
almost looks like a little bit of a Scooby-Doo villain.
Yeah, like kind of a Scooby-Doo villain.
But, maybe slightly scarier.
And we got a couple more of these. I'm going to cover the Greenbrier Ghost.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about the Brown Mountain Lights,
Sweet.
which those I had heard of before
I hadn't
this
heard
episode.
of those.
So that's our trade-off here. But we just talked about how the Bell Witch is the only paranormal entity we know of that has actually committed a murder. This is the only paranormal entity that had a testimony given as evidence at a murder trial, helped convict a killer.
My God.
The Greenbrier ghost is unique, again, because it is the only case in which testimony attributed to a ghost was admitted as evidence in a murder trial and helped convict the killer. This was in 1897.
Wow.
Zona Heaster Shue was a young woman who died in January of 1897 in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. Her husband, Erasmus Trout Shue, discovered her body and carried her to the bedroom before the local doctor arrived. When the physician examined Zona, Trout held her head in his hands the entire time, weeping, and the doctor, not wishing to disturb the grieving husband, conducted a cursory examination, listing the cause of death as everlasting faint, which means absolutely nothing. It was just like, I don't know. Yeah. Everlasting faint.
God.
For 4 weeks after the burial, Zona's mother, Mary Jane Heaster, a deeply religious woman who had distrusted Trout from the beginning. I mean, he goes by Trout. I would distrust him.
Yeah, red flag.
Prayed every night for her daughter to come back and tell her the truth. According to Mary Jane's own sworn testimony, Zona came back. For 4 consecutive nights, Zona's ghost appeared in her mother's bedroom. She was calm and specific. She described her marriage in detail, Trout's violent temper, his abuse, his obsessive demands. And then on the 3rd night, she turned her head completely to show and demonstrate what had been done to her. Her neck had been broken.
Ugh.
Trout Shue had killed her. Mary Jane Heaster went to the local prosecutor, John Preston, with what she knew. Preston, who was of course skeptical, ordered Zona's body exhumed. The subsequent examination revealed she had a broken neck, crushed vertebrae, and bruising consistent with strangulation, none of which the original doctor had found. Trout Shue was then arrested.
Wow.
At trial, the defense attempted to use Mary Jane's belief in her daughter's ghost to discredit her. It was, of course, a tactical error. I mean, these are still very superstitious times. This is during the period of spirituality where seances are not uncommon.
Sure.
Mary Jane, under cross-examination, was unshakable. She freely admitted that she had prayed for her daughter to return, that Zona had returned, and that everything Zona had told her had been confirmed by the autopsy. She said, "I'm not the only one who knows it," she told the court. Zona knows it too. Trout Shue was convicted of first-degree murder, sentenced to life in prison, where he died 3 years later. The grave of Zona Heaster Shue is in Greenbrier County, still draws visitors. A historical marker erected by the state of West Virginia tells the story that I just gave to you, that a ghost testimony helped bring her murderer to justice, and it is the only historical marker in the United States that makes such a claim.
That's amazing.
And I have a 2018 account of someone who went to visit the grave. 3 of us went to Zona's grave at Soul Chapel Methodist Cemetery on a Friday evening in late July. It was broad daylight, maybe 6:30 p.m. We were doing photography for a local history project, nothing paranormal, just documentation. My friend Carrie was photographing the headstone from about 6 feet away. I was standing on her left, and our third companion, Marcus, was behind us looking at his phone. Carrie lowered her camera and turned toward me. Her face had gone completely white. She said, "Did you just touch the back of my neck?" I hadn't moved. Marcus had not moved. She showed us the camera screen. In the photograph she had just taken, there was a smear of light across the upper right corner that was not present in any of the preceding or following frames. She had taken 38 photos that afternoon. One had the light, and she had no explanation for it. And that's not what kept any of us up at night. When Carrie turned around to show us the image, Marcus went rigid. He was staring at the road behind the cemetery fence. We looked, and there was a woman in a white dress standing at the shoulder of the road, perhaps 30 feet from us, facing away. All 3 of us saw her. Marcus dropped his phone, and by the time we looked up from the sound, the road was empty. There was nowhere she could have gone. There was no car, no path, no building. The road runs straight in both directions with open fields on each side, and we did not take any more photographs.
Wow.
Creepy.
Stuff like that's always just so fascinating to me, though.
And I love that that was able to be used as evidence at trial. I mean, I guess that fair is fair because they did allow for spectral evidence to be used in witch trials, in the Puritan witch trials. So I guess fair is fair that it should be allowed to be used to convict a murderer.
If it was used then, let's use it now.
Yeah, let's use it the other way.
What's the problem there? And of course, we got one more story here. The Brown Mountain Lights, which I got to be honest, I'm not too familiar with. I maybe had heard it in passing, but not like some of these other ones. There's a mountain in the Pisgah National Forest of Burke County, North Carolina. Unremarkable in height, thickly forested, known by no one outside the region, above which, on certain nights, lights dance. They have danced there for as long as anyone has a record of, and the record goes back more than 8 centuries. The German engineer Gerard William de Brom noted them in 1771. The Cherokee spoke of them centuries before that. They appear most often on clear autumn evenings, small rounded orbs of light in red, white, blue, and yellow that rise above the tree line of Brown Mountain, hover, fade, and reappear in different locations, and eventually vanish. They have been observed from as far as 100 miles away. Wow, that's wild. Think about that. They have been observed consistently and repeatedly by thousands of people over hundreds of years. The Cherokee who lived in the valleys below Brown Mountain had a name for the lights, which basically ends up translating to the fire carriers. They explain the lights as the torches of spirits searching for fallen warriors from a great battle fought on Brown Mountain long before living memory, a battle so terrible that the dead had not been properly mourned and so could not rest. The spirits wandered with their torches forever, looking for the ones who had fallen and not been found. That's amazing.
Crazy.
Later settlers offered different explanations. A man's ghost searching for his runaway wife, the devil inspecting his territory. It's always the devil.
The devil's just always showing up at the most random locations.
Hey, there's these hovering lights.
It's
Satan. It's the devil. He must be.
He's busy. He's a busy guy.
The devil's almost as busy as you. It's unbelievable. Swamp gas rising from the lowlands, though Brown Mountain is nowhere near any swamp. Reflected light from distant towns. This was the U.S. Geological Survey's 1913 conclusion. Debunked when the lights continued appearing after a flood knocked out all local railroad and automobile traffic and extinguished every electric light for miles. That's pretty crazy. Luminous moss, ball lightning, a geological phenomenon involving quartzite deposits. None of the scientific explanations has ever fully accounted for the frequency, variety, range, and consistent witness testimony surrounding the Brown Mountain lights. After more than 800 years, let me say it again, 800 years, they remain what they have always been, unexplained. Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
It's just another one of those things you can't explain. You can't rationalize it away.
You really can't. And we have from a journal here, Reverend Abraham Shuford from Burke County, North Carolina. This was from October 1912. I had decided the lights were natural phenomenon, mislabeled by credulous mountain people, and that I would prove this to myself by camping on the eastern slope of Brown Mountain for a night and taking thorough notes. I am a man of God and a man of the 19th century. This guy thinks highly of himself. Meaning I believe in an orderly world with an orderly explanation for every phenomenon within it.
Well.
Oh, buddy. Abe.
Come on, Abe.
Abe, come on, man. Loosen the tie. Anyway, sorry. I took my Bible, my journal, a lantern, and enough provisions for 2 nights. My wife thought the enterprise absurd. I now believe she was right, though not for any reason either of us would have anticipated. The lights appeared at approximately 10 o'clock, 3 of them, rising in sequence from the tree line to my northwest. They were not large. At their brightest, each was perhaps the size of a lantern flame seen at 50 yards. They moved with a quality I can only describe as purposeful, not the random drift of gases or the consistent arc of a body in motion, but something between the two, a movement that seemed to correct itself, to choose, to pause, and reconsider. The red one held its position for perhaps 3 minutes while the white and blue ones moved into converging arcs around it. Then all 3 winked out simultaneously. I know the time at 10:34 p.m. I wrote several paragraphs of remarkably calm description in my journal. I know this because I can read those paragraphs now. I have no memory of writing them. My next clear memory is of daylight. Again, this lost time thing. Mm-hmm. Gray early morning light through the hemlocks and finding myself seated upright against a tree. My Bible open in my lap to the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. More than 6 hours had passed. My lantern was out of oil. My notes from the intervening period, I had clearly continued writing through whatever occurred during those hours, are not interpretable to me. The handwriting is mine, but the context is a series of measurements and coordinates and one phrase repeated 17 times in increasingly large letters, filling the last 3 pages of my journal. They are looking for something that is not there anymore.
Wow.
Yeesh. I broke camp at once and came down the mountain. I conducted the Sunday service 2 days later with what I'm told was unusual fervor. I have not returned to Brown Mountain. I have never found my I have never told my congregation what happened. I tell it now only because it is 1912 and I am 61 years old, and something in me insists that it be recorded before I'm not here to record it. Whatever those lights are, wherever they come from, they are not natural, and they are not simply lights.
And there's something to be said about, I mean, despite needing to loosen his tie, there's something to be said about like someone who is like very religious, very stern, being like,
set in their ways.
I can't explain this. Like, I can't, there's nothing I can say, but here it is.
Yeah.
Something to be said about that.
Can you believe he was 61 in 1912?
That's crazy.
I mean, that's just like
that.
that.
He was a man of the 19th century, it turns out.
He really was. I mean, but when I hear that, I'm just like, man, the stuff that he didn't get a chance to see.
I know how much the world has changed in the last 100 years.
Or like when we're not here, like what is it going to be like? You know,
Crazy.
what are they going to have? Like, that's just something that I always ponder when I hear stuff like that.
I know. I hope the veil lets me come back and forth because I want to pop in and be like a fly on the wall sometimes, like 100 years, 1000 years, 1000 years, 1,000
I don't know what I'm
years.
saying. I'm like 400 years old.
I've
I'm
spent
Dracula.
87 years.
God,
And before I go
old
into the
lady.
travel itinerary, which I did build a very spooky road trip that I'm actually love. I did a little thing making a list of some of the most famous people from Appalachia region. The most notable and most important on the list being Dolly Parton.
Of course.
She was born the fourth of 12 children in a one-room cabin with no electricity, and she is the most decorated country music artist of all time.
Yeah, she's the best.
Loretta Lynn is also an Appalachian girl, coal miner's daughter, married at 13, mother of 4 by 18, country music legend by 30. Thank God for her song, The Pill. Patsy Cline as well, one of the most influential vocalists in American music history. She would have been much more famous had she not unfortunately died so young.
Yep.
Bill Monroe,
Yes.
who is the father of bluegrass music, which was a synthesis of Scots-Irish mountain ballads, African-American blues and gospel, and his own very, very good mandolin playing.
By the way, Bill Monroe is the shit. Now proceed.
The shit. Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States, was born in the Shenandoah Valley. Daniel Boone, which I'm sure surprises no one considering his repertoire.
I thought he was from New York City, personally.
As well as Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett was born in Greene County, Tennessee. And Mother Jones, Mary Harris Jones, who's the most important labor organizer in American history. She lost her husband and 4 children to yellow fever and then her dress shop to the Great Fire of Chicago before she discovered her calling of organizing coal miners. She was still doing it at 93.
That's
this is the best compliment I've ever heard given to a woman ever. President Theodore Roosevelt called her the most dangerous woman in America. She's
rad.
the reason we have workers' protections now, is Mother Jones. And then other famous people, Thomas Stonewall Jackson, also born in Appalachia, as well as Henry Clay, who was known as the Great Compromiser. He was served as the Secretary of State, Speaker of the House, and Senator from Kentucky. He spent 30 years trying to hold the Union together, trying not to let the Civil War happen. It did anyway. And I just thought it'd be fun to like include some of the famous people from that area.
I didn't know Cormac McCarthy was from there.
Mm-hmm. Billy Ray Cyrus, too. I mean, it tracks. You don't write a song, Achy Breaky Heart, and you're born in...
That mullet, though.
And you're,
Remember when that kid asked us to play Achy Breaky Heart?
Oh, yeah. And so we were playing like...
Sorry.
We do rock shows. I mean, we do a lot of 90s hip hop and we do some pop as well, but we don't do any country. None, zero, zilch, nada. And we were playing a show where it was getting rowdy. It was a lot of emo stuff. It was a lot of pop punk.
Yeah.
We had just done, I think, Dragula.
Yeah,
I think was what we had just
Bodies
done. Or something.
Just something, abysmally heavy.
And this kid comes up and he's like, "Can you play Achy Breaky Heart?" And I just froze. I just looked at him because I couldn't tell if I was being punked or not.
And this whole time, guys, just imagine this. Like, we played that. I have a Vlad the Impaler t-shirt on.
Yeah.
Like, nothing says country music like good old Vlad, right? But Cormac McCarthy's from there. I got a quick question. Did you ever read Blood Meridian?
I did not.
I want to read Blood Meridian. I heard it's really like pretty hard read. If anybody read Blood Meridian, can you recommend that? Yes or no? Because I've been wanting to check it out. Thanks.
So here is our haunted, spooky Appalachian road trip starting in Nashville, Tennessee, because we still have to have great coffee and travel and snacks and hauntings.
And nothing says scary like Nashville.
Nothing says scary like Nashville. If you've been downtown ever, you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to start with the Witch Road. Starting in Nashville, Tennessee in the morning, you're going to go to Barista Parlor in Germantown. This is a landmark specialty coffee shop in a converted industrial building. Really, really good. It's single origin pours, serious espresso. They take their coffee very, very seriously. There is sometimes a line, so get there early. And then we're going to go have lunch at the Loveless Cafe. This is a Tennessee institution. It's been here since 1951. It's conveniently located on Highway 100, headed towards Adams. Adams, Tennessee is where we're going to take you to the Bell Witch Cave. There's country ham, red-eye gravy, like the best scratch-made biscuits. I mean, I will give this to the South. I love their comfort food.
Oh my God.
And like, if I allowed myself, I would be the size of a beluga whale.
People would be wheeling me out.
I had mac and cheese for the first time in forever the other day, but when I tell you, I would go to war for that mac and cheese. I would, and mac and cheese has been my favorite food since I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
And my
They built this
grandmother,
physique right
my
here.
grandmother used to let me eat it for breakfast because, power to the people. I think she resented feminist standards, and she was like, sure, you can have that. But it was the best. And so I've always been really picky about mac and cheese, but also like gluten and dairy at the same time, not always my bestie.
Right.
So I have to be very cautious. But I had some the other day, and oh my God, like I literally took one bite and I just sat in the chair, like holding my chest for a little bit. It was so good.
It's so good.
You're going to drive up. It's not that far. It's about an hour away up to the Bell Witch Cave. So this is the limestone cave that's on the original Bell family property. You can see a replica of their cabin. So you can see where this would have happened, where these bangings would have happened, the chains being drug happened. And then they have guided tours that'll take you into the cave where you might I know that my camera malfunctioned. You had the orbs in your photos.
Yep.
There's really extreme temperature drops
Yeah.
in there. And it
Very.
is the cave is underneath and part of a burial ground. Like there's a small coffin inside the cave as well that has been disrupted later on.
And it has the rock with the demon face.
Yes.
At the end. Also, real quick, just a quick caveat about the Bell Witch Cave. It is not open yearly.
Yes.
So keep that in mind.
So
it's only open in the fall.
Yes. So it opens starting at Memorial Day, I think. Memorial Day
that's right.
through
Okay.
October.
Right.
Thank you for that because I
Yeah,
forgot
no
to
problem.
note that. But yeah, so this road trip has to happen in the summer or early fall.
If you want to go to Bell Witch.
And then while you're in Adams, go to Adamstown and Red River Meeting House. It has monuments and markers to the Bell family haunting. This is,
Cool.
it's a very small area, so this is really what they're known for. The Red River Meeting House, which was the church that John Bell helped found and where Kate claimed to love attending, still stands. So you can stop by and see the actual church.
That's pretty amazing.
And then for dinner, we're going to go to Husk back here in Nashville. This is Sean Brock's Southern Cuisine Temple, if you will. It's in a Victorian mansion in Rutledge Hill. It's so beautiful. Everything on the menu was grown or raised in the South. So this is a very farm to table, very Southern place. The cast iron cornbread, you're welcome. You can send me a thank you card. I have a P.O. box you can send gifts to. You do need to get a reservation for this, though. And then for music, we're going to go to Station Inn. So this is one of the greatest bluegrass clubs in America. Like, maybe in Appalachia itself at like a house cabin get together, maybe.
Yeah.
But Station Inn otherwise is the bluegrass spot. It's no stage lighting to speak of, cash only at the bar, and some of the most jaw-dropping like string pickers you'll ever hear in your life.
Yeah, phenomenal.
And when you pop in, legends come in a lot. On Tuesdays, I think they come in. There's a lot of really famous bluegrass players that pop in on Tuesdays.
Yeah, I believe it is
But
Tuesday.
really, any night you can go in and there's a chance you'll meet somebody really, really famous.
Yeah, they're all good.
And then we're going to
All
finish
great
with
players.
cocktails at the Patterson House. This is one of the first serious cocktail bars here in Nashville. It's a speakeasy. You have to kind of know where the door is to find it. Intimate, dimly lit, amazing ingredients. Has some of the best like whiskey and scotch based
That's awesome.
cocktails in town, but it's got everything. So if you're a speakeasy fan like moi, Patterson House is the way to go. So day 2, we're going to go from Nashville, Tennessee to Cherokee, North Carolina, and ending in Asheville, North Carolina. So it's about 3.5 hours on this first leg. And driving through East Tennessee is so beautiful.
It is.
But we're going to do our first stop at Old Smoky Distillery, Tennessee's first legal distillery since Prohibition. It's right in the heart of Gatlinburg. There's moonshine tasting flights that lean into the mountain traditions, and they have some really good, deceptively good moonshine to the point where it's so tasty. Be careful. Be careful because this is a driving expedition.
Yeah, please
so
be
don't
careful.
don't overdrink. Then we'll stop at the Museum of the Cherokee Indian. This is the definitive history of the Selaji people, their civilization, their cosmology, and the catastrophe of removal. This is the origin point of the Wampus Cat, the Raven Mocker, the Stone Man, and the entire spiritual framework that we really talked about today. And then we'll go to the Akanalufti Indian village. This is a living history village demonstrating 18th century Cherokee life, which is incredible. You can see blowgun crafting, basket weaving, a council house with people who really, I mean, they were the originators of civilization in the mountain region.
Pretty amazing.
And as we're going into past Cherokee, because all of those are in Cherokee, North Carolina, as we go towards Asheville, stop at the Newfound Gap. It's a Great Smoky Mountains National Park, but it's the highest through road in the park. And you can stop here before crossing over, and you'll see the scale of the range, how beautiful it is. It's a gorgeous,
it is a really
gorgeous
cool spot.
lookout point. In Asheville, North Carolina, go to Curate, which is James Beard nominated Spanish tapas by Chef Katie Button. One of the best restaurants in the South, like period, end of sentence. And I also, if you've listened to me for any period of time, you know that Barcelona is my favorite city in the world. I love Spain. I've been 6 times. So having Spanish tapas done this well is so delicious. The jamón ibérico and the croquetas and the gin and tonic program are mandatory. You're welcome. Again, I will give you my P.O. box to send me gifts. This is a restaurant that I would advise during this day eating really light and really digging in here. It is so good. And this is your delicious point. And for evening cocktails, we're going to go to Sovereign Remedies. This is a botanical cocktail bar built around foraged, herbal, and medicinal ingredients. So this is the granny women, kind of the healing women of Appalachia, it's built around their practices.
Oh, I love that.
So it's a cocktail bar built around essentially an apothecary. So this vibe fits kind of our spooky haunted trip, but like it's just a lot of it's foraged. A lot of the ingredients are foraged and brought in to design these amazing cocktails. Also know that as you are driving from Newfound Gap and the Cherokee country into Asheville, North Carolina, if you hear anything in the hills after dark, don't answer. This is one of the regions where people are very specific about sounds at night. Don't answer anything that calls to you. Don't answer anything that whistles to you. And then for day 3, we're going to spend time in Asheville, North Carolina, which is one of my favorite southern towns.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's very unique. It's very artsy. It's in the mountains. And kind of, I would consider it the unofficial capital of modern Appalachia. But it's got a lot of character to it while bringing in so much good food and music. Start the day at High Five Coffee. This is the most beloved specialty roaster in town. They have cafes throughout the city. Super, super delicious. And we're going to have breakfast at Biscuit Head.
I love that name.
For someone that has a gluten sensitivity, I enjoy pain. And I will sacrifice my internal organs.
As one should.
At the altar of Biscuit Head. This is we're talking architectural biscuits.
Right. That's cool.
That is the word I'm going to use. But they have gravy flights that you can try, different gravies on your biscuits, local honey, pimento cheese. You can also have fried chicken on it, because why wouldn't you do that for breakfast? There is a line, but it's worth it. It moves quickly. Order more than you think you need. Trust me, but I would also get there a little early. And then explore the River Arts District. This is a bunch of industrial warehouses along the French Broad River, housing over 200 working artist studios. You can walk this for 2 hours and go into these artist studios and see each individual one. Buy something handmade, talk to the artists. It's such a really cool way to support local artists and the local economy.
Yeah, you got to do that.
And it's amazing. I'm so amazed by artists in that way, like painters and sculptors. That is just an art form I don't have anything in.
Me either.
And watching people do that is amazing.
It really is. I have a hard time drawing a stick figure sometimes.
Right, exactly.
It's not good.
For lunch, go to 12 Bones Smokehouse. This is Asheville barbecue. Notable enough that President Obama did stop here twice. The smoked ribs and the blueberry chipotle sauce are genuinely iconic. This is cash only at times. Again, there's a line here, but it's always worth it. It moves really quickly. And I will say I'm probably partial to North Carolina barbecue over anything else. I love the sauces that they use. I'm a fan. And then we're gonna stop for a sweet treat at French Broad Chocolate Lounge. This is a bean to bar chocolate operation with a cafe downtown. If you are a chocolate person, this is one of the best chocolate experiences you'll have in your life.
My ears are raised.
And they have drinking chocolate. So it's like an actual hot chocolate. It's a drinking chocolate. Have to stop there. It's so good.
If we ever stop there as a band, I'm going to end up like that fat kid from Willy Wonka.
I know, right?
You have to pull me away.
And again, for the rest of the day, just explore a lot of the shops, a lot of the local places. It's so beautiful. Go for hikes. There's a lot of close hikes. I would also, even if you're not staying there, stop by the Omni Hotel in Asheville. Has a beautiful kind of estate that you can go into, and you can stop at the restaurant or you can have cocktails, sit outside. But for dinner, we're going to Chai Pani, which is another James Beard award winner for Outstanding Restaurant in 2012. This is Indian street food executed so well. And I would say if I had to pick like a genre of food, if you will, if I had to pick one, it would be Indian food. That would be my genre. And it's so good. The bhel puri and the okra fries are just so good. So good. And this one you can do walk-ins. Again, always safe to get a reservation.
Yeah.
Music that night, go to the Gray Eagle, Asheville's kind of intimate venue for Americana, bluegrass, folk, and roots music. This is the kind of place where you'll see a new artist you've never heard of before, and you'll wonder how in the world they're not famous.
Yep.
And you'll follow them for the next 10 years as they become famous. It's that kind of place, but very much the roots of the kind of music of the region. And for late night, go to the Crow and Quill. This is a Victorian taxidermy speakeasy. Serious craft cocktails, very, very spooky. Feels very haunted because it's all this taxidermy and it's very Victorian feeling. Low light, old wood, strange, beautiful things on the walls, and the bartenders who know exactly what they're doing. This, if you have to pick one cocktail spot, I love the Apothecary, but I would say Crow and Quill.
Okay.
Like personally was the one.
Interesting.
So weird, but so great. For day 4, we're going to go from Asheville, North Carolina through Lewisburg, West Virginia. And this is another about 3.5 hours, so it's not too intense on the drive. Fuel up at Trade and Lore Coffee. This is a small batch roaster in Asheville that's known for their pour-overs and for the pastries. So grab that, jump in the car, and head off. We're going to do a haunted stop at Soul Chapel Methodist Cemetery. This is where the grave of Zona Heaster Shue is, the only person in American history whose ghost testimony was used as evidence to convict her murderer.
Amazing. And
then make a historic stop at downtown Lewisburg, West Virginia. It's very walkable, very well preserved. It's this small historic downtown. There's landmark districts, independent shops, galleries. This is just a great kind of take a break, stretch your legs, but really true to the time and well preserved, which unfortunately, a lot of towns didn't. They either didn't stay alive enough as a town to maintain it, or some just didn't. And
that is a shame.
And then do a resort stop at the Greenbrier Resort. This is Sam Snead's Oak Bar. This is America's Grand Dame Mountain Resort, if you will. It's been open since 1778, and has hosted every sitting U.S. president. You don't have to stay to drink at Sam Snead's Oak Bar, but you can. It's a clubby wood-paneled room named for the golf legend who lived and is buried nearby. But if you do stay and you do stop, order the bourbon. Very, very good. Very excellent. And the resort also has a classified Cold War bunker beneath it built for Congress in the event of a nuclear war.
To go down there and drink my bourbon.
So I want to go drink my bourbon in the bunker. It's just a very unique historical place. And for dinner, you can have food at the Greenbrier, which has a main dining room that is just beautiful. Like it's somewhere you have to bring nice clothes, like formal dress, extravagant buffet, like 2.5 centuries of American history in the Greenbrier's main dining room. Or you can go to Lewisburg locals. There's small downtown areas that have a bunch of restaurants that are mostly seasonal. So they'll mostly be local menus that are seasonally based. So you can go local, or if you want to get dressed up a little bit, go to the food at the Greenbrier.
Nice.
The road into Greenbrier County and through the Highland County passes through some of the loneliest and most beautiful stretch of Appalachia is accessible by car. It also passes through territory where the Raven Mocker was said to hunt. So roll your windows down after dark, listen to what the mountains want to say, but don't respond. But that's where the Raven Mocker is said to have originated from. Day 5, we're going to go to Lewisburg, West Virginia, through Flatwoods, all the way to Charleston, West Virginia. Start at the Flatwoods Monster Museum. This is the official museum dedicated to September 12th, 1952 encounter on the Fisher Farm. The original witness accounts, period photographs. The diary that we read from is included in this museum. It was donated to this museum. So this is about the Flatwoods Monster. Also stop at Fisher Farm Roads in the Hill. The actual hill on the Fisher Farm where the encounter happened, you can actually stop and see and visit the hill itself.
Right on.
And then one of my favorite stops, books and coffee, because why wouldn't we?
Nerd.
Go to Taylor Books. This is in Charleston. Again, these drives are pretty easy, nothing too far.
Love that.
Say it again. The Taylor Books store is an independent bookstore and a coffee shop. And this is kind of an institution downtown on Capitol Street. The Appalachian folklore and history section alone is worth the stop. And they do, obviously, because of where they're located. If you're ever wanting to pick up a book or read, this store has so much. So grab a coffee, grab a 2, 3, 4, 10 books. You know, it's your life. And then have dinner at the Bridge Road Bistro. This is Charlton's most acclaimed restaurant. So it's upscale, but this is not a pretentious upscale. Like the food is really, really good, really elevated, but you don't have to wear formal attire or anything like that.
That's nice.
And this is also a restaurant drawing on Appalachian ingredients on the menu, and it changes with the season, which I love. There's a lot of places throughout all of these towns and drives that really rely on local produce, local farms.
Yeah.
What's grown seasonally. I think it's really great. And this is really a proper celebration dinner for the end of this trip. And they have a very, very good wine list. For music that night, go to West Virginia's legendary live music bar called the Empty Glass. This is a kind of scruffy, not quite divey, but a little rough around the edges institution that has local bands, touring Americana acts, and everything in between. It's truly a local music joint that has a lot of great music. And then get your nightcap at the Bluegrass Kitchen. This is a Charleston institution that does double duty as a serious Southern kitchen and a late night bar scene. There's local spirits, so from local distilleries, well-made drinks, and a local crowd there. So you'll actually meet people from the area. And I think that's the best way to end a trip like this. Whether you're staying in one spot for 5 days or traveling, always end it with the locals. And when you were driving through Flatwoods at dusk before you hit Charleston, several independent motorists have reported vehicle failure, batteries draining, no mechanical reason or energy reason for that, but there does seem to be some haunted spaces as well on the road that leads into Charleston. Bring a watch that runs without a battery.
My God.
And that is our travel portion. I want to go on this trip.
I know, me too.
Right? I feel, we might have to expand this into a week and do a 7-day road trip and do a bunch of Patreon content and maybe do a bonus episode on what we find.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, people are probably wondering hey, how come you didn't mention Mothman? There's a Mothman museum and stuff. So we might be doing something with that in the near future.
Yeah, we wanted to, that one has a lot of material. We didn't want to cram it into this episode. We'll do a solo one on Mothman. But thank you all so much for being here.
Guys.
Again, thank you so much for the new ratings and reviews. That helps us so much. Every time you rate and review, every time you share the show, that really helps us. Thank you to our Hellions for voting in this particular topic. It was really fun. And we'll see you next week on Highway to Hell.
Thanks, everybody.